Good morning, baby. Yeah, good morning, folks. How are we doing? It's the Doug Rice Show. Hey, that AI be getting down sometimes. Cut the music. Oh, I like that. Man, they're getting sharp over there at the AI studio. Good morning, DougRice.com. You know what? I always say DougRice.com. Oh, yeah, baby. And that takes you to the Doug Rice Show. I have owned that URL for so long. And now it's put to good use. Good morning. How we doing, folks? Set aside the jokes. This is the Doug Rice Show. Welcome to the show. How are you? I am capital. I am great. Yes, everything is falling apart, and I'm wonderful. Isn't that? That's amazing. You know, and that's just the temperament of a Negro. Yes, it is. While the world is falling apart, Negroes maintain their cool. Boy, I tell you what. Yeah, folks, I'm hanging on by a thread. Yeah, just hanging on by fingernails, but you know what? I'm not scared to fail. I've failed before, I'll fail again, and then I'll get up and say, let's do it again. All right, how's everybody doing? Good morning. This is the Doug Rice Show. The day is dawning. I found something amazing. Yes, in the annals of the PDF files within the confines of my PC. There it be, folks. I did not know. Let me share it with the rest of the show. Yeah, this is fairly decent. This sets it apart. This puts things where they should be, right back to the start. Now, here we are looking upon something called Flores, Manners, Customs, etc. of the ancient Israelites. And you're probably wondering, damn, Doug, why did you name this A Short History of the Ancient Israelites by A. Clark? Well, I'll tell you. That's because Miss Clark revamped the book, corrected, improved throughout the apparatus biblicus. And this was originally written in French. Here's the interesting part, folks. Now, this is the name of the book, Flores, Manners, and Customs of the Ancient Israelites. When we talk about ancient Israelites, we're talking about Negroes. Negroes only. I'm just going to keep saying that because that's who I am here for. I am here for Negroes only, all right? And I say that only because I am imparting as much information, education, dare I say wisdom and insight. But I do it all for Negroes. I am Negro-centric, Negro-centered. I am chock full of negrosity. There you have it. And so, this publication, recommendation of this work by B.H. Horn, this little book, 300 and some odd page little book, I don't know where that comes from, you know. This little book contains a concise, pleasing, and just account of the manners, customs, laws, polity, and religion of the Israelites. It is an excellent introduction to the reading of the Old Testament and should be put into the hands of every young person. Every young person needs to donate to the Doug Rice Show so that they can get for free this PDF. I'm just spitballing. An elegant English version of it by Mr. Farnsworth was first printed in, look at that year, folks. Look at the year, folks. This was printed in 1756. And this is by Vald His Discourses, Vide His Courses, and I believe that's Life's Discourses, Volume 1. I'm on Vide, Vince, whatever. So this is an interesting book. Now look, let's get to the full name of this book so that you understand. A Short History of the Ancient Israelites with an account of their manners, customs, laws, polity, religion, sects, arts, and trades, division of time, wars, captivities, and work, etc. A work of the greatest utility to all those who read the Bible and desire fully to understand the various customs, manners, etc., referred to in that sacred book, the Bible, our history book, our Negro history book. Written originally by French by the Abbé Fleury, much enlarged from the apparatus biblicus of Pierre Lamé and corrected and improved throughout by A. Clark, Liverpool, printed by J. Nuttall for B. Bonds, number 54, Paternoster Row in London. Yes, folks, 1802. 1802. 1802. Folks, this book is about me and you. This is not about Judaistic Ashkenazi European converts from the order of King Bulon. No! This is not about those imposters. No. This is about the sons and daughters of Shem, the Abrahamic peoples that stem from Jacob. This is about Negroes. This is about our manners, our customs, our laws, our polity, our religion, our sects, our arts, and our trades. And don't you forget it. Now that I've set the tone, let's continue. Now, this is the preface. Here's the reason this is important. I need you to understand before you like, subscribe, and share, before you do all the things that are scrolling down there, before you hit that notification bell, and I can't tell if the notification bell works, so you know the rest. All right, so this is a preface. The reason I stop here because, folks, you have to understand, this was written in a land where, and I'm just going to say it, where Jews were not really popular. This was almost written as an antithesis, there we go, to the presence of Jewry in Europe. They simply broke it down like a fraction. And in my mind, this kind of interaction points to the fact that these folks don't act like that. I mean this. What we're going to read, and I think you're going to see this, is, you know, the very opposite of what the European Judaistic, Babylonian, altruistic okay, I'm just messing with you. You know, it's a guy that this ain't Talmudic. You see, what separates us from the European fuss is the Talmud. You see, the Talmud is what sets the tone for the Europeans, okay, the European Jews. And this book speaks really nothing of the Talmud, almost nothing, I would say. All right, so anyway, every attempt to illustrate the Bible, one of the oldest and most important books in the world, a book that has God or its author and the eternal happiness of the human race for its end, deserves the most serious attention of all those who profess the supposed Christian religion. So we know where this stems from. We know the foundation through which this will flow. But as I've said this, and I'm sure you know, eat the meat, spit out the bone, leave what you don't accept alone. This is the Doug Rice Show, and I've shown, and I know everyone watches me is grown. It is granted on all hands that this book has many difficulties, but this is not peculiar to the Jewish scriptures. All ancient writings are full of them. These difficulties are generally in proportion to the antiquity of such writings. For the customs, manners, and language of mankind are continually changing. And were it not for the help received from the records of succeeding ages, which are only accessible to the learned, many valuable works of primitive times must have remained in impenetrable obscurity. Let me tell you, by design, by design, they wish to keep these from your mind. They don't like this kind of information to be found amongst particularly our crowd. I can tell you that. Scholars and critics have exerted themselves in the most laudable manner to remove or elucidate the difficulties occurring in ancient authors, and thanks to their industry, they have rendered the study of these writers not only easy, but delightful, and brought the literature of ancient Greece and Rome within the reach even of our children. But the heathen writers, now who are they talking about here? Who do you think they're referring to, the heathen writers? I'm wondering. Have not been the only objects of regard in the grand system of critical disquisition. A host of the most eminent scholars that ever graced the Republic of Letters are ennobled the human character, have carefully read and diligently studied the sacred writings, have felt their beauties and prized their excellencies, and by their learned and pious labors have not only recommended them to mankind at large, but rendered them useful to all who wish to read so as to understand. Some of these have been addressed to the infidel, others to the scholar, and some to the plain, unlettered Christian. The number of the latter, it is true, has not been great, but what is deficient in quantity is supplied by the very accurate information they impart. These works want only to be generally known, to become universally esteemed. In the first rank of those writers, the Ebb Fleury and Father LeMay stand highly and deservedly distinguished. The former of his treasure, entitled Mort des Israelites, the book now before the reader, and the latter by his well-known work called Apparatus Biblicus. The former is the most useful treatise on the subject. Did I go back? I did? Okay, hold on. I'll go back. I love when I do this. The former is the most useful treatise on the subject I have ever met with. Understand what they're saying here, what we're about to read. And let me pause because you need to understand. And look at the next line. In 1756, do you know the power of the Jews in that time period? Do you understand that the Rothschilds had sent his sons out to the five corners of the world? And we can have the parallel information right in front of us in a minute. I can tell you that, folks. I can get in it. Don't play with me, okay? Because we can see. So what was written here had to be written very carefully. You understand? Particularly in 1803 when it was revised. Do you understand the power structure within the financial realm of these countries controlled by specific individuals who may have some say in what is read, in what is taken in? And so they are deftly, very carefully concordant and coordinating every word just so that you understand the ramifications and the explanations. You understand what we're talking about here? This is a very cautious time they were in. That's basically what I'm saying, all right? All right, so in 1756, this book, the Mort des Israelites, that I can't want to say it in French, was translated by Reverend Eylis Farnsworth and dedicated to the Bishop of Lichfield and Cumtree. How it was received, I cannot tell. Understand, even the ramifications of those words tell you the times that these folks were in. Folks, I hope you're in for at least some elevation of your mental here, because we have to get into the weeds. Here's the reason this is important. Somebody ain't who they say they are. Okay, somebody on this planet causing a lot of problems right now, killing thousands of people based on some kind of identity they have assumed over thousands of years, ain't who they say they are. So this book, A Short History of the Ancient Israelites, let me tell you, it's going to bring out a few things. We're gonna be able to look at these folks and say, I smell you. Because something don't smell right, man. These folks ain't Israelites, man. All right, how it was received, I cannot tell, being long before my time, but if it's sold in proportion to the merit of the work and the fidelity of the execution, a very large edition must soon have been disposed of. When I first thought of preparing a new edition of this work for the public, I intended to retranslate the original, but on reading over the translation of Mr. Farnsworth, I was satisfied that a better one could scarcely be hoped for. In general, the language is simple, pure, and elegant, and both the spirit and unction of the original are excellently preserved. I therefore made no scruple to adopt it, reserving to myself the liberty to correct what I might or thought amiss, and to add such notes as I judged necessary to the fuller elucidation of the work. So the rewriter of this work, Mr. Clark, wanted to respect the prior writing of the original writer and did very little to change the delivery and only made scarce corrections and added notes. Let's focus on this. As some judicious friends thought of the original work rather too concise, they hinted that several useful additions might be made to it on the same plan. I was naturally led to turn to Farah Lamé for materials, whose work above mentioned I considered as ranking next to that of the Ebb Fleury. For Mr. Bundy's edition of this work, most of the fourth part of the present volume is extracted. To those points which I suppose the Abbey had treated too concisely to make intelligible, I have considered more at large and some subjects of importance, which he had totally omitted, I here introduced. To the whole, I have added a copious index by which any subject discussed in the work may at once be referred to, and have reason to hope that every serious Christian of whatever denomination will find this volume a faithful and pleasant guide to a thorough understanding of all the customs and manners, civil and religious, of that people to whom God originally entrusted the sacred oracles. That people. I need you Negroes to understand he's talking about us without actually talking about us, because he's not talking about those other folks. He's putting them back of the bus. Yes, he is. Don't get it twisted. This is a Protestant writing this. I'm more sure of it. This is not anything other than that. All right. A Catholic would not put these types of things in print, and a Jew would look at this and scat. Oh yeah, I did it. Okay. Without a proper knowledge of wit, it is impossible to see the reasonableness and excellency of that worship in those ceremonies, which God himself originally established among them, and by which he strongly prefigured that glorious revelation under which we have the happiness to live. Yes, as long as you take faith in that Negroes are, in fact, set apart and the jewels of Almighty God. P.S. Should this treatise be well received, the editor intends to translate another piece of the same author entitled Mars de Christons, Manners and the Ancient Christians, which is only equaled in importance and usefulness by the work now before the reader. And I can only tell you and assume that that book is simply a book speaking of the Negroes that were alive during Yeshua's time. Because they hijacked everything from us. They took everything from our Negro minds. They did. You know what? They can't hide it anymore. Let's, folks, if these are Negroes, if these are Israelites, if these are Hebrews, I'm a monkey's uncle, and I am not a monkey's uncle, okay? That is absolutely 100% true. We are going to go into just a few of some of the attributes of Israelites. You know, if the word Negro somehow interferes with your delicate sensibilities, you know, the secondary nomenclature I would use to refer to those who are the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade are Israelites. I'm going to stay away from Jews all the way, from Jewish all the way. We don't have to be that any day, okay? But Negro is our indication of a royal designation, and Israelites, well, that's all right too. All right, let's take a look at this now. They do not have, unfortunately, a table of contents. They do not. So we got to work with what we got, okay? My name is Doug Rice. Thank you for showing up to the Doug Rice Show. If you'd like to support this effort, so you know, look below and tickering across the bottom. You can just drop some dollars and cents, and I'll tell you I got them. All right, that's what you do. Thank you so much, folks. Like, subscribe, share as well too. The manners of the Israelites. Now we're going to go through this kind of, I'm not say briskly, but because there's really no table of contents, I just kind of want to look through it. But let's just look to see, are Israelites more them or are they more you and me? Let's see. First, the manners, part one. The design of this treatise. Let's look. The people whom God chose to preserve the true religion till the promulgation of the gospel are an excellent model of that way of living, which is most conformable to nature. We see in their customs the most rational method of subsisting, employing one's self and living in society, and from thence may learn not only lessons of morality, but rules for our conduct, both in public and private life. Stop the presses. Okay, so right there, tell me that this resembles any European Ashkenazi convert. Boy, they are angry these days. And they're supposed to be Israelites. They're supposed to be native to the land they're spilling so much blood upon. I don't understand. And I'm going to go through this, folks, and you're going to get it. This book is about us. This is about Negroes. This really, if you want to know, about a true Negro, this book gives you that plot and that plan. This book will help Negroes understand. They cut us off from this information. Oh God, that rhymed. Yet, these customs are so different from our own that at first sight they offend us. We do not see among the Israelites those titles of nobility, that multitude of employments or diversity of conditions which are to be found among us. They are only husbandmen and shepherds, all working with their own hands, all married and looking upon a great number of children as the most valuable blessing. The distinctions of meats of clean and unclean animals with their frequent purifications seem to us as so many troublesome ceremonies, and their bloody sacrifices quite disgust us. We observe, moreover, that these people were prone to idolatry, and for that reason are often reproached in Scripture for their pervasiveness and hardness of heart, and by the fathers of the church for being stupid and carnally minded. Now listen carefully before you get in your feelings. I know how it starts out. Just relax. All of this joined to a general prejudice that what is most antient is always most imperfect, easily influences us to believe that these men were brutish and ignorant, and their customs more worthy of contempt than admiration. And this is one reason why the Holy Scriptures, especially those of the Old Testament, are so much neglected or read to so little purpose. Such well-meaning people who have not quite got over such prejudices are discouraged by the outward appearance of these strange customs. You better read this stuff. You better understand what you're reading, okay? And either impute the whole without distinction to the imperfection of the old law, or imagine some mysteries beyond their comprehension or concealed under their external appearances. Continue to read and understand what he's saying. Others, for want of faith or upright of heart, are tempted upon such pretenses to despise Scripture itself as full of mean and trivial matters, or draw wrong conclusion from it to counter-nuance their own vices. But upon comparing the manners of the Israelites with those of the Romans, Greeks, and Egyptians, and other people of former ages, which we hold in the highest veneration, these prejudices soon vanish. We observe a noble simplicity in them, greatly preferable to all refinements. That the Israelites had everything that was valuable in the customs of their contemporaries, without many of their defects, and a great advantage over them in understanding what ought to be our chief aim in this life, the nature of that true religion, which is the foundation of morality. Let me tell you, Negroes, something. Did you see the turn? Did you see the dime? And did you see what he was saying between the lines? No, I mean, this guy, I don't know, look, first, watch how this goes, because we know he's talking about Negroes. We know that's why this was written. That's why this book has me so smitten. Yeah, I said it, whatever. Check this out. We must learn then to distinguish what is only offensive to us in their customs from what is really blameworthy. What we do not like upon account of the distance of time and places, though it be in itself indifferent from that which being good in itself displeases us for no other reason than because we are corrupt in our manners. You know what, boy, this dude's about to tell this. I think he's going to tell himself. For most of the difference betwixt us and them does not proceed from our being enlightened by Christianity, but from our being less guided by reason. The Christian religion did not introduce this great inequality of conditions, this disdain of labor. Y'all feeling me? This eagerness for divisions, this authority over women and young people, this aversion from a simple and frugal life, which make us differ so much from the Antians. It would have been much easier to have made good Christians of these shepherds and plowmen, which we see in their country, than of our courtiers, lawyers, or farmers of the revenue, and many others that spend their lives in an idle and discontented poverty. Let it be observed that I do not pretend to make a panegyric upon this people, but to give a very plain account, like that of a traveler who have seen far distant countries. I shall describe what is good, bad, or indifferent, just as it is, and only desire the reader to divest himself of all prejudice, that he may judge of these customs by good sense and right reason alone, to discard the ideas that are peculiar to his own age and country, and consider the Israelites in the circumstances of time and place wherein they lived, to compare them with their nearest neighbors, and by that means to enter into their spirit and maxims. Now, here's what I'm getting at, folks. He's saying it without saying it. He's talking about the laziness of Europeans, the fact of, he's literally going into this without getting into it. Now, let me get into chapter 2. Let me see here. Check this out. Now, are they talking about Negroes? or are they talking about the European Ashkenazi Jews? Quick chapter 2 of the Patriarchs. Their nobility, their Negro nobility. Now you hear this. The Patriarchs lived after a noble manner. And the perfect freedom of great plenty, notwithstanding, their way of living was plain and laborious. Abraham knew the whole succession of his ancestors, and no way lessened his nobility. Since he married into his own family, he took care to provide a wife of the same race for his son, do you see it? You'll see it. In whom were fulfilled all the promises that God had made to him. And Isaac taught Jacob to observe the same law. Now, who's he talking about, folks? We know who he's talking about, but okay. The long lives of the fathers gave them an opportunity to educate their children well, and of making them serious and considerate betimes. Abraham lived more than 100 years with, wait, do I need to enlarge that? Maybe y'all don't see that. Maybe something's going on here. I'm sorry, y'all see what, wait, hold on. Abraham lived more than 100 years with Shem. Man, he's pointing out Shem right there, huh? He sure is. And no doubt learned from him the state of the world before the deluge. He never left his father, Terah, and was at least 70 years old when he lost him. Isaac was 75 when Abraham died, and as far as we know, never went from him all that time. It is the same with respect to the other patriarchs. Living so long with their fathers, they had the benefit of their experiences and inventions. They prosecuted their designs, adhered firmly to their maxims, and became constant and uniform in their conduct. For it was a difficult matter to change what had been settled by men who were still alive, especially as the old men kept up their authority, not only over the youth, but the elders that were not so old as themselves. Again, folks, what this gentleman is doing, what A. Clark has done in revamping this book, I believe is a testament to the presence of Jewry in Europe and Britain. The time frame through which this book rolls, from about 1756, rewritten in 1803. This was the point in time, at some point they were expelling Ashkenazi Kazaryans, those Polish individuals from Russia, these Ukrainians, they were expelling them from places like Great Britain and other places, refused. There was a counter of Jews within these countries that I believe we have gone over together. And so there was not a population because they were not popular. Now, the firm hold they had on usury, on the financial sector, the well-placed stratus of Jewry at that time eventually took hold and in some respects controlled the kinds of information being disseminated throughout their nation. So we have to remember that what's being said, in my opinion, and I'll say this again, is a counterbalance to their presence within their dominion. Because it's saying everything. Look, let me tell you this, folks, as we read the book, they keep calling them Israelites. You know, that's what they keep calling them. They're not calling them anything else, and Israelites ain't nothing near Jewish. It's not Judaism. It's not Kazaryism. It's not. And then he mentions Shem, which has nothing to do with them. So we'll continue. I just wanted you to remember, short history of the ancient Israelites. This publication, this book is available to you upon donation or request, whichever you choose best. I'll give it to you if you ask me. I'm not going to sell it. okay? It's just that I'd love for you to donate, because money, I can smell it. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so let's go. Thank you for showing in the show. Oh, I meant to tell you, Detrina is not feeling well, and so hopefully we can at least acknowledge that. I never say thoughts and prayers. I think it's an empty gesture. I'd much rather say something like, she's not feeling well. Do what you feel is best, please. Because they use thoughts and prayers. I don't want to sound like them, I don't. And I don't want to sound like the church. Pray for her, all right? Consider her when you address the Most High. There you go. That's about it. All right, let's move on. And she'll be back and she'll be better. Y'all watch what's happening. Thank you. All right, so and listen, we're chalking out a short history of the ancient Israelites provided by somebody named A. Clark. Mr. Clark, let's just call him a Gentile. He's not a Jew. Mr. Clark, who rewrote this book, another Gentile wrote while in the European theater, most likely London. I believe that's the print. Again, the time frame through which this was written betrays what is not written. That's the best way to put this. So we're going to continue. The remembrance of things past might be easily preserved by the bare relation of old men who naturally love to tell stories of ancient times and had so much leisure for it. By these means, they had no great use for writing, and it is certain we find no mention of it before Moses. However difficult it may seem to conceive that so many calculations as he recitates should have been preserved in the memory of men as the age of all the patriarchs, the exact dates and the beginning and the end of the flood, the dimension of the ark, etc. Yet there is no necessity for recurring to miracle and revelation. That brings to my thought this real simple. What we study amongst ourselves now, they can turn this stuff off immediately somehow. With the flip of a switch, we're all in the dark. Okay? And the only thing that you'll have is your memory. The only thing you'll have preserved, hopefully, is the memory of all that we've gone over. This is why I do this, because this is how they did this. And remember as well, he just said that writing, they didn't have any great use for writing. Well, when the Ashkenazi convert by the order of Bulan, King Bulan came into play, they took their Babylonian heathen practices and created the Talmud. And they created something that kind of, watered down and bastardized our true Judaistic worship of the Most High. And this was all going on, I'd say, while Yeshua was in play. Okay, so that's what I have to say. All right, so for it is probable that writing was found out before the deluge, as we are sure musical instruments were, though not so necessary. But though Moses might have learned in the common way most of the facts which he has written, I believe, nevertheless, that he was influenced by the Holy Spirit to record these facts rather than others and express them in terms most proper for the purpose. Now, how do they do things? They don't do things like that. Let's move on to the next chapter. Wow. Let me make sure I got this. Check this out. Their riches. Their riches. The riches of the patriarchs. The riches of the patriarchs. Our family. Our Negro relation consisted chiefly in cattle. Cattle. All right? Cattle. You better hear me. Abraham must have had a vast stock. Y'all better get with the program. And when he was obliged to part from his nephew Lot, because the land was not able to bear them together, Jacob had a great number when he came back from Mesopotamia, since the present that he had made to his brother Esau was 580 head of cattle of a different sorts. What's wrong? I ain't got your attention yet? Why don't y'all look back early in the years of cinema and movies? What do these white men all want to be? Cattle rustlers. Shut up. Be quiet. They're imitating us. They've been doing it for years. You know, they've been doing it for years. But what did the Ashkenazi imposter do? He made the wealth money bound. He made the wealth involving gold and silver and all that other nonsense. And we know that you can never fill up your pocket, but there's a nobility. There is a rootness in being a cattle rancher. That's the reason y'all watch shows like, you know, what I can name a bunch of shows, you know, not offhand because, well, I'm in brain lock right now, but listen carefully. Don't you understand what they've been doing to us black man, Negroes, you know? So Abraham in their riches, cattle, but wait, there's more. There's more. From which we may likewise learn what sorts of beasts they bred, vis-a-vis goats, sheep, camels, horned cattle, and asses. There were no horses or swine among them. It was such plenty of cattle which made them so great a value upon wells and cisterns in a country where there were no river, but Jordan rained very seldom. Oh, but look at this, what they got? They got slaves too. They want to be us so bad. But you see, we didn't treat our slaves badly, see? And slavery had a lifespan, you know? So at 50 years, you'd go back to your land or something like that. You'd opt back in, but it wasn't really inherently a sin. They had slaves too, and Abraham must have had an abundance of them, since he armed 318 men of those that were born in his house and trained up by himself. Now, when you bring them up and train them up and they were armed, did they arm us? Nope. They armed one of us, maybe, right? Over what, 1,000, maybe, what, 800, 200, 300, who cares? Everything is a reflection of everything else. They reflect and want to be us so bad. So remember, folks, the American mindset is that, if you have to know, is that they think that they're the Negro. Oh, no, you're going to hear this. America thinks it's Israel. That's really how they feel. Do you not understand that? I've read books that actually convey that. This is the reason that they want to be cattle ranchers, that they want to own slaves. Oh yeah, here you go, there's the gold. When he returned from Egypt, he said he was rich in gold and silver, the bracelets and earrings. Elijah made a prayer. Who do they want to be? Who are they emulating? Now you know, it's you and me. That's who they're simulating. Don't y'all understand what's happening here? You're getting it now. I know you hear me. I know you do. The bracelets and earrings, which were his servants made a present to the Rebekah from his master, weighed 6 ounces of gold. With all their, I'm going to read it. And the purchase of his burying place shows that money was in use at the time. We see likewise by Esau's clothes, which Jacob wore to obtain his father's blessing, that perfumes and costly remnants were made of it. Folks, do I need to pound the point into your psyche? Do you understand the reflective nature of our situation? Do you understand that they have brought us into this land as slaves, taken our blessing, and emulated the being of us? Now you know why we is in the back of the bus, huh? And they won't really admit this. They'll talk about, they'll talk about settling. They're talking about, no, they're not. They're emulating, they're copying, they're echoing. They have no source of blessing of their own. And so they have taken our blessing. At least that's what this has shown. So we got riches. These are the manners of the Israelites. Remember, we're going to short history of the ancient Israelites, or another word would be Negroes. Negroes. Why do I say that? Chapter 4. Their frugality. Frugality. How do Negroes spend today? Well, let's see something. The patriarchs were not at all nice in their eating or other necessities of life. One man judged of their common food by the pottage of lentils that Jacob had prepared, which tempted Esau to sell his birthright. But we have an instance of a splendid entertainment in which Abraham made for the 3 angels. He set a calf before them, new bread, but baked upon the hearth butter and milk. It seems that they had some sort of made dishes by that which Rebekah cooked for Isaac. But his great age may excuse this delicacy. This dish was made of two kinds. Abraham dressed a whole calf for the angels, and 3 measures of meal he made into bread, which comes to more than 2 of our bushels, and nearly 56 pounds of our height. Whence we may conclude they were great eaters, used much exercise, and were perhaps of a larger stature, as well as longer lives than we. The Greeks seem to think their heroes were bigger men, and Homer makes them great eaters. Y'all ain't reading this? When Eumaeus entertained Ulysses, he dressed a hog of 5 years old for 5 persons. Homer's heroes wait upon themselves in the common occasions of life, and we see the patriarchs do the same. Abraham, who had so many servants as when near 100 years old, brings the water himself to wash the feet of his divine guests, bids his wife make the bread quickly, goes himself to choose the meat, and comes again to serve them standing. Do they do that? Who is that? Who is that? Frugality. I will allow that he was animated upon this occasion with a desire to showing hospitality, but all the rest of their lives is as a piece with it. Their servants were to assist him, but not so as to exempt them from working themselves. They want to be us so bad, but they just can't pull it off, you know? They can't be the noblemen they want to be. Do you understand? In fact, who could have obliged Jacob when he went into Mesopotamia to travel a journey of more than 200 leagues? For it was at least so far from Beersheba to Haran, alone and on foot, with only a staff in his hand. What, I say, could oblige him to it but his own commendable plainness of love and toil? Negroes also like to be plain. We like that. And understand that they emulate us as much as they can, but they can't pull it off. It gets to their head, you know? All right, so let's continue the short history of ancient Israelites. And I'm just going through the book. I want to go, so that's part 2. That was part 1. So check this out, folks. Now that was part 1, and we went through chapters 1 through 4. Check this out, because there's more. Here's part 2, and this is chapter 1. And I'll read through this and then I'll be done, because this is most important. The Israelites, their nobility. Now, I want you to think of what a noble people acts like. And they are quietly refined. They're not haughty. They're not loud. They're not. They're royal people. Negroes, unaffected by caucasity, left to our own devices, left alone as God had intended, set apart as his special possession, without any interference from these European hedonistic monsters who have had their claws in us for 400 years. If we had been left to our own Negro devices, we would be noblemen. We are noble Negroes. We are royal by nature. Shall I say it? By blood, Negroes are royalty. Every one of you. You need to hear that. They are not. And by they, I mean those that pretend to be Negroes and those who have not been appointed by God as royal people. So I'm not looking at the cousins of crowns across Europe as royalty. I'm not looking at King Charles. King Charles is said to be the Antichrist. He needs a facelift if he's going to pull that off, okay? The optics, man. So none of these clowns who appoint themselves royalty are royal. The only royalty that I acknowledge on this planet are the royal family of Negroes, who are my family. And here's the reason I say that. Let's get into it. The Israelites, their nobility, though the people were already very numerous, They were still called the children of Israel. Do you think the people that are fighting over in the state of Israel are the children of Israel? Please. Please. There's not a noble bone in Netanyahu's filthy body. I am sorry to say it. He's a Polish European transplant. He's from Europe. His name's not Netanyahu either. Yeah, we're speaking truth today. As if they had been but one family in the same manner as they said, the children of Edom. Oh God, look at that. The children of Moab. Indeed, all these people were still distinct. They knew their own origin and took pride in preserving the name of their author. Thence, probably, it comes that the name of children signified with the ancients, Antians, a nation, a certain sort of people. Homer often says the children of the Greeks and the children of the Trojans. The Greeks used to say the children of the physicians and grammarians. With the Hebrews, the children of the East are the Eastern people, the children of Belial, the wicked, the children of men, or Adam, mankind. And in gospel, we often see the children of this world, of darkness and of light, and also the children of the bridegroom, for those that go along with him to his wedding. Check it. The Israelites were divided into 12 tribes. There was the same number of the Ishmaelites and as many of the Persians. The people of Athens were at first composed of 4 tribes, afterwards divided into 10, which they gave the names of 10 heroes, who for this reason were called eponymi, and whose statutes were set up in the public exchange. The Roman people were also distributed into 3 or 4 tribes, which increased to 35. The names of them are still upon record. But these Athenian and Roman tribes were made up of different families collected together to keep order in their assemblies and elections. Whereas those of the Israelites, y'all better hear him, were naturally distinct and were only 12 large families descended from 12 brothers. Folks, I can't even express how, look, he's telling you that the folks claiming to be Jews are not Israelites. That is exactly what he is saying. He is talking about Negroes. The reason we can ascertain this is because he's being so, I can't even explain what he's doing. It's amazing. The writing is very, very exact. And now I want you to I'm reading ahead a little bit. Here, listen to this. This is even better. They were very exact in keeping their genealogies and knew all the succession of their ancestors, as high as the patriarch of their tribe, from whom it was easy, going back to the first man. Thus, they were really brethren, that is to say, kinsmen, according to the Eastern language, and of genuine nobility, if ever there was such a thing in the world. Let me tell you, boys and girls, let me tell you. Back in the 1100s, the 900, the 800, 1100, back in those days, when the Moors, the Negroes were a noble, a royal class of people. We are the individuals that occupied Europe and were unfortunately almost murdered out of existence, enslaved out of it. I don't care what you want to call it. The fact of the matter is, all right, when they had us in their homes, it was considered an honor to have a Negro in your home. And in like mind, when you look at all the televisions that are everywhere around the world, it's still the same today. They love our Negro energy. They love it. They get down with our get down, and they enjoy it. All right. So for us to have lost the sense of our Negro selves while enslaved under the boot of these Gentiles is truly just it's a horrible thing. We're all waking up. We're all understanding that things are amiss and things are awry, and certain facts are now catching your eye. But remember, folks, don't let the important stuff go by, because they continually and always must lie. You know that. All right, let's continue. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Doug Rice. Here we go. So they had preserved the purity of their family to be brought to. Okay, they had preserved the purity of their families by taking care, as their fathers did, not to marry with the nations descendant from Canaan. The Canaanites are who occupy the state of Israel today. They're Canaanites. Wow. So I'm going to move on to the next chapter, because I definitely want to make sure we don't miss too much. There's a pretty big book, guys. So I'm just going through. So they got their employments, their agriculture. I'm just going to let you see, because we don't have to read through all of it. It's pretty big. Their employments and agriculture. They mention King Boaz gleaning his harvest. So in every respect, this book is almost a litmus test, a touchstone, almost what our practices were. It gets real detailed, okay? And it is available to you. The nature of the soil. The Israelites dwelt in the land that was promised to the patriarchs, which the scripture often describes as flowing with milk and honey. This is chapter 3, okay, on the money. To express its great fertility. This country, which is so hot in comparison of ours, lies a great way within the temperature zone between the 31st and 33rd degrees of northern latitude. This is our property he's talking about. It is bounded on the south by very high mountains that defend it from the scorching winds that blow from the Arabian deserts, and which run as far to the east as they do. Now, you do know he's not talking about Ukraine. He's not talking about Poland. The 31st and 33rd degree, that's over there in what they call Africa, if you ask me. So isn't it interesting that he's doing everything he can to point away from where the Jews land? Very, very interesting. I'm going to end it here because I don't want my voice to go down. A lot of things I have to get done today. But I hope you guys understand. So 300 and some odd of the riches of the Israelites. It goes on and on and on. There are arts. This is our culture that this individual has so aptly written about. And again, folks, if you are interested, 319 pages. We were on page 61. Okay, I'd have never got done ever. So I'm pretty happy that I stopped there. This book is available. If you go to the website, I'm going to create a little video that lets you see the covers of all the books so that you can also take a look. I'll be doing that today. Boom. This is what we were going over, a short history of the ancient Israelites with an account of our Negro manners, our Negro customs, laws, polity, religion, sex. And they stole all of this from us and took it for themselves. And what this individual, Mr. Clark, has done, and yes, it is in London, right there at the bottom, it shows it is in London. Mr. Clark has done was deftly written something that outlines play by play who Negroes are in every way, and who those that are claimed to be Jews and are not. This is the best evidence we've got, right next to the scripture in our own mind. All right, folks. Thanks so much for showing up. My name is Doug Rice. Thank you for showing up. Today, I will be covering some news and some other things that might come my way. I am back doing my own thing in my own way, and I do like to say I like it that way. All right, folks, thanks so much for being here. You hear my voice is going a little bit. Cue the music. AI, music AI. There he is. Hey. All right, folks. Thanks so much for being here. I do appreciate you listening to me. Like, subscribe, and share, all that stuff. I am very, very happy about this accomplishment. DougRice.com is live. If you go to DougRice.com, you'll be redirected to the DougRiceShow.com. Today, you're going to see a short video that's going to play just as long as it needs to show you all the PDFs that I have for you. Please visit theDougRiceShow.com and order a stack of, donate for a stack of PDFs. You're getting them free, and I got plenty left. Oh, I'm just kidding. This one is real good, though. All right? Hope you had a good day on the show. You guys have a wonderful morning. Hey, if you're out there, do me a favor. Get the grin off. There we go. Gotta go. Y'all take it easy.